Get started. Thanks for being here this evening and being a part of our meeting this evening. I want to reconvene at this meeting of the Williamsburg County School Board. As we do, if I have my mic not there, we are. Okay. Can I have a member certified closed session for us, please?
Am I on? Yes. Mr. Chair, is certified to the best of each member's knowledge that the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters as were convening in the closed meeting were heard, discussed, and considered.
Thank you, Ms. Huntley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers. Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. And Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right. In this point of the meeting, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Mr. Jay Everson to lead us in this thing of the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Everson, all please rise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Everson, and I think I heard a tiny voice out there ringing out the Pledge of Allegiance that warmed my heart. Way to go. All right. Item 4.1, we're going to have our announcements and superintendent report. Dr. Herron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. While our teachers certainly deserve to be celebrated all year long, I wanted to share with you some of the messages we received from families to send to their teachers last week. First one, you were incredible. My daughter has thrived in your classroom under your teaching style and high expectations. We are so thankful for you and how well you do your job. The magical place that you create within your classroom is one felt long past your time as a student's teacher. My daughter still speaks highly of you and all that you did for her her very first year in school. You create an environment in which students feel loved, feel happy, and feel safe enough to ask questions and make mistakes. I will never be able to thank you enough for what you poured into my daughter. You are the reason she loves to learn. And another one. We want to thank you for all of the support you've given my daughter this year. It's not always easy to see, but she's made so much progress this year, and we owe so much of that to you. I feel it's not often that a teacher really just gets a student. You've made this year better than we could have hoped for. And you are our son's first teacher. It is so hard for us to describe what fantastic work you're doing for us. He is happy to be your student, believes in you, loves you, likes to go to school, is safe, can make a friend and already has some, is interested in studying, has reached some success, and is excited and more motivated. And all of it and much, much more because true, you are there for him. In total, more than 250 messages of appreciation were shared through this e-card. And we know hundreds more messages of appreciation were shared in all different ways last week. So thank you again to our teachers. Teacher, we appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Herron, and thank you for sharing just a few of those snapshots. It's amazing how far a kind word will go. So thank you, and to all those that sent in kind words. Any reports from board members this evening?
I do. I have one from SEAC. So for those of you that don't know, SEAC is the Special Ed Advisory Committee, and I'm not going to steal their thunder because in June they're going to be presenting their annual report to you all, and well, to us, but you all will hear it. But they are super proud of this year. We have always had a quorum. We've had awesome discussions. We got lots of work done, and they really want to increase their awareness for all the people in the community that may be interested in issues with children with special needs. We have a newsletter now, and that's going to go out, and that's going to help to increase it. The highlight was having Miss Newberry there. She's a teacher from Stonehouse Elementary School, and she wanted me to make sure that I thanked Central Office for their April 28th Professional Learning Opportunities Day. She said that was such a great time for special ed teachers that were able to specifically pick workshops that they wanted to go to, and they learned a lot, and they wanted to make sure that I said thank you to you all, and that also might mean next year, if you want to do that again, they'd be happy. And also, Miss Newberry got feedback from us on how can we increase the awareness and let people know what's going on with our committee, and we gave her some ideas, so she will be working on that. But I will be very proud, as well as the rest of the board, when you hear all of the wonderful things they got accomplished this year. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any others? All right, we'll move on to student and staff recognitions. I want to ask Ms. Donner to meet me down front.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have several recognitions to celebrate. We begin by recognizing Daniel Mullen, Athletic Director at War Hill High School. Mr. Mullen, please come forward to be recognized. Mr. Mullen was named the 2023 Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association Class 3 and 4 Athletic Administrator of the Year. In short, Mr. Mullen was recognized first as Regional Athletic Director of the Year before going on to earn the top award in the Commonwealth. The award recognizes Mr. Mullen's contributions to athletics at the local level, what he gives back to the profession and his peers, and service and support to the school and community outside of athletic duties. Thank you for all you do, Mr. Mullen, and congratulations. Next, we would like to celebrate school nurses who successfully earned their nationally certified school nurse credential. The credential is based on a very stringent and comprehensive process and is granted by the Accreditation Board of Specialty Nursing Certification, the standard-setting body for specialty nursing certification programs. To be eligible for this certification examination, candidates must have a Bachelor of Science degree or higher in nursing and meet the direct or indirect school nursing clinical practice requirements of a minimum of 1,000 hours worked within 3 years prior to taking the certification exam. Please come forward to be recognized as your name is called and remain until all nurses have been named. From Bright Beginnings, Karen Bird. From J. Blaine Blayton Elementary School, Stacy Cooper. From James River Elementary School, Catherine Haramis. From Matthew Whaley Elementary School, Elizabeth Wells. From Stonehouse Elementary School, Megan Drakes. From James Blair Middle School, Julie Anderson. From Lois Hornsby Middle School, Beth Vona. From Jamestown High School, Louisa Johnson. From Lafayette High School, Tiffany Banks. And from War Hill High School, Julia Raftery. We also want to recognize Katrina Kennan from Tuano Middle School, Emily Olson from Berkeley Middle School, and Lisa Richardson from Norwich Elementary School, who are unable to join us this evening. Thank you all. Congratulations. Our recognitions conclude tonight by honoring our Support Employees of the Year. The WJCC Support Employee of the Year program brings recognition to outstanding employees and their integral contributions to the success of the division. One support employee from each school and non-school-based department was selected by their peers and colleagues to be honored. We appreciate these employees' dedication to our schools, departments, and most importantly, to our students. A few of the 2023 support employees had scheduling conflicts and could not join us this evening. However, we will announce each of the recipients in acknowledgement of this wonderful accomplishment. Please come forward and be recognized as your name is called and remain until all support employees have been named. From Bright Beginnings, Robin Bennett. From Clara Bird Baker Elementary School, Laura Lilly. From DJ Montague Elementary School, Sophia Perez. From J. Blaine Blayton Elementary School, Keith Morris. From James River Elementary School, Isabel Cantrell. From Laurel Lane Elementary School, Omega Berkeley. From Matoka Elementary School, Christy Grubbs. From Matthew Whaley Elementary School, Kathleen Cochran. From Norwich Elementary School, Cassandra Collimore. From Stonehouse Elementary School, Lindsay Sharama. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. From Berkeley Middle School, Joyce Smith. From James Blair Middle School, Jacqueline Evans. From Lois S. Hornsby Middle School, Marcia Epps. From Tuano Middle School, Sandra Willard. From Jamestown High School, Jacqueline Barnhill. From Lafayette High School, Craig Jones. From War Hill High School, Kathleen Speed. From Central Office, Susie Mills. From Operations, Thomas Anderson. From Technology, James Ward. And last but not least, from Transportation, Matthew Crawford.
I'll have to squish it.
Congratulations and thank you to all of our support employees of the year. Mr. Chairman, this concludes recognitions for this evening.
Another huge thank you from the school division and the school board for everybody recognized this evening. I know you've got a whole support team behind you, making all of your efforts even that more profitable. So thank you to everybody for being here and for all your tireless works. I want to move on to item 6, public comment of the evening, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Ortego.
It is at this point in our meeting where citizens are invited to address the board. Those citizens desiring to speak have submitted speaker cards to the clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. These speakers are asked to come to the podium when their names are called, state their names for the record, and direct their comments to the chair of the board. It is the board's interest and desire that all comments are heard and respected. Hence, the citizens are asked not to engage in applauding, verbal outbursts, or any other type of demonstrations during the presentations. Personnel matters are not considered in public meetings. Therefore, the board requests that all speakers refrain from making reference to specific individuals in any form or fashion. Though the board does not respond to your comments are heard and appreciated. Each speaker is allocated 1 minute and 30 seconds to make their presentation, and the board asks that you respect this time limitation. Also, please be reminded that no time may be yielded to another speaker. Your acceptance and adherence to these guidelines will be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and my directions are concluded.
Ms. Ortego. Ms. Ortego.
And I will do my very best to get all these names right. First speaker is Kelly Lapointe.
Just want to clarify, you said I can't say teachers' names, but I can say the school?
That'll be fine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Start?
You're good. Thank you.
My name is Kelly Lapointe, and my daughter is in kindergarten at Laurel Lane Elementary School. I could never have anticipated what my child's first year at school was going to be subjected to when it started. She has been exposed to 2 different students in her classroom who have posed a threat to her mental and physical well-being. She has been witness to students yelling profanities or growling, destroying school property, hitting, kicking other students, staff or furniture, and other unnerving behaviors. I am concerned about the mental health issues these 2 boys have created for my daughter. She currently brings an emotional support stuffed animal with her to school to help with her anxieties and for when the boy in her class gets upset. On one occasion, she was removed from her classroom due to feeling unsafe rather than the boy who was creating the hostile environment. The teachers and staff have poured hours of their time and resources into these disruptive students to get them the help that they need. The problem is that these types of students are not going anywhere. The fact that my daughter has had to deal with 2 different children in the same year is evidence of that. With the rise in behavior concerns, especially in the lower grades, the procedures we now use need to be reviewed and revamped. But more importantly, we also need to address and protect the other students in the classroom. There's also the amount of instructional time that's been missed. Her class has had to be removed to the hallway, to the core, outside, and to other classrooms due to one child's behavior. At what time are we allowed to say enough is enough? At what time are we allowed to say other students are being adversely affected by one child's behavior? And to quote another parent, I do not want my child desensitized to behaviors that should be red flags later in life.
Thank you, Ms. LaPointe. Thank you.
If you have written comments, that you can hand them to the clerk. If there was more, if you want to submit your written comments, they will be sent to us. Mr. Thomas Lapointe.
Good evening. My name is Tom Lapointe. That was my wife that was just speaking earlier about the potential damages done to our children with regard to their education and emotional well-being. These are the long-term effects. I would like to talk to you more about the immediate dangers that result from these disruptive children in the class. I'm going to read the names of a few schools, and you will immediately know the tragedies which I'm referencing. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, Parkland High School, Robb Elementary School in Uvalde last year, and then closer to home, Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News. That was earlier this year. These are just a handful of the almost 400 school shootings that have occurred since Columbine in 1999. That's almost 2 per month for the calendar year, or the calendar school year. 2 a month for a quarter of a century. This is unacceptable. Our education system is failing these children. Every time there's a school shooting, we see clues that lead up to these tragedies. Journal entries, disturbing drawings, social media posts, bullying, parents and teachers observing increasingly violent behavior. Where I work, we call these leading indicators. They are the precursors to an accident, an injury, or in this case, a tragedy. Failure to recognize and address these precursors is in essence saying that you're okay with the outcome. I can only paint this picture so well with words. If you would simply imagine this meeting as the kindergarten classroom that my daughter attends and me as the disruptive student, I could be flipping over these tables, throwing chairs, kicking trash cans, yelling, spitting, punching, kicking, and cursing. Think about the resources that you have at your disposal to subdue me. These resources are not available to the teachers. Without better
Mr.
policies
LaPointe,
in place.
I do have to stop you. I'm sorry. Again, if you have written comments, please. Thank you.
Kimberly Canaliato.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Canaliato, and my husband and I have 2 daughters attending Matoka Elementary. We received an email stating we reside within the preliminary draft of non-transportation zones for next school year because we live within a half-mile radius around the school. To commute to school via walking or driving is actually 1.3 miles. Driving to school is not an option for all families due to work schedules, lack of car access, and the time it takes to wait on car line in the mornings and afternoons. I imagine this plan will also increase students' absences, which will result in lower test scores and potentially lower accreditation. Not all families can afford Rec Connect because they must pay out of pocket. Walking is also not feasible. The half-mile radius is irrelevant. We cannot physically walk a half-mile radius without illegally trespassing on our neighbor's private property, as well as walking through the woods to get to Brickbat Road. The legal way to walk to school is on the streets, through our neighborhood, onto Centerville, and then Brickbat, 2 heavily trafficked roads. Per Google Maps, it will take 29 minutes to walk. Now keep in mind that students carry heavy backpacks with laptops, water bottles, etc. Did I mention walking in inclement weather? The most crucial part of walking is there are no sidewalks on Centerville or Brickbat Road. There's also no crossing guard or traffic light to help the children walk safely across the street. We need to keep our children safe, and the plan to implement a non-transportation zone in our neighborhood is irresponsible and would put our children in danger. We need buses. My recommendation would be to increase pay with benefits and/or bonuses to retain and hire new bus drivers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emma Canaliato.
Hello, my name is Emma Canaliato, and I am in 3rd grade at Matoka Elementary School. My parents told me there might not be a school bus in the fall, so I'm here to tell you the top 5 reasons why we need the bus. Number 1, time. Parents work hard, and unfortunately some do not have the convenience of waiting in car line twice a day, 5 days a week. Number 2, resources. Matoka will need more teachers and staff to help with the increased car line, and our teachers are super busy preparing for the school day. Number 3, safety. There are no sidewalks on Centerville or Brickbat Road. There is also no traffic light or crossing guard to help us cross Brickbat Road safely. Number 4, our backpacks are too heavy. I weighed my backpack with my laptop, notebooks, water bottle, lunchbox, and library books, and it weighed over 10 pounds. I am pretty sure my little sister and I won't be able to walk and hold a 10-pound backpack for 1.3 miles. Number 5, camaraderie. Let's be honest. We love our friends and have fun riding the bus together. One way to keep the buses is to have students sit 3 to a seat to get more people in and to pick up more neighborhoods. The more the merrier. Please don't take our bus away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Canaliato. Thank you.
Tim Harshbarger.
Hello, my name is Tim Harshbarger. My wife and I have 2 daughters that attend Matoka Elementary. As we are here to help provide the best educational path for our children, we must consider the effects of the non-transportation zone designation that has on their educational foundation. Things like increased burden to get children to school will increase absences, as well as leading to lower test scores due to the increase in absences. There's also the inequality of distribution of public resources on false pretenses and decreasing accessibility to the school. Additionally, there will be a burdening of the school administration and staff with more children and cars in the carpool line, all of which contributes to negative effects on morale. All of these will also negatively impact the rating of the schools. It's not even debatable that the school is safe to bike or walk to. Parents will be required to drive their children. This creates another list of detrimental effects on our children's education. Extensive time spent in car lines before and after school, conflicts with car availability at work, especially for commuters driving much farther than Williamsburg proper. Next would be the influx of families that have to utilize Rec Connect and the increase in out-of-pocket expense. This by far is not an exhaustive list of negative effects on our current system financially or otherwise. My recommendation is we take a different approach for compensation and hiring practices to encourage as much positive educational ecosystem for our children as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harshbarger.
Jennifer Herget.
Is anyone here aware of the Pfizer documents for the
Ma'am,
COVID-19?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I do need to stop you for a second. Can you identify your locality?
Yorktown, Virginia.
Yorktown?
Yes.
Okay. Not within James City County?
No.
We do have to restrict this to James City County residents. I'm sorry. Per our SOP, per our policy. Please understand. Thank you.
Alin Parham.
Good evening, Chairman Dow, members of the board, and Dr. Heron. My name is Alin Parham, president of WJCA. On behalf of the union today, I acknowledge the advocacy of our board members, our public education community supporters, employees, and members have done in the continuous advocating and hard work to our funding partners, the Board of Supervisors, to provide funds for our budget of needs, which includes help with classroom resources, students' needs, teacher recruitment and retention with the approved staff raise in the budget. And with some of the comments today regarding student needs, I felt that our school division should acknowledge that each library should be a reflection of its school community, which includes its students, its families, and staff. It's a vision meant to reflect and inspire our community where the challenges of our past inform the ideas needed to meet our future ambitions, to be the heartbeat of a school and a resource for a student to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parham.
Forgive me if I get this one wrong. Is it Zhao Han?
Good evening. This is Zhao. My son, Maxwell, is a second grader at Motoka Elementary School. Here I come to speak against no transportation public zone policy just recently proposed by the school board. I would like to highlight that as an economist, I would like to say both the benefits and the cost of this policy. I don't want to emphasize that there's no benefit to our family, they're just cost, but I would like to think about the society, the economy as a whole, and I would like to highlight maybe the only benefit of the proposed policy is to save some money. That's it, right? But you want to save the money at the cost of reducing, increasing safety concerns. And also, Maxwell told me repeatedly that taking the bus is a big part of his life. He's making friends, he's socializing, he's having a lot of fun at the bus, and basically you're just propose this policy to take all of these things away. So in the end, I think the cost is much, much larger than the benefit, and I encourage you to take a more serious approach of doing this. And finally, I would like to emphasize that as all taxpayers pay taxes, this is really unfair to families who are living near the elementary school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
David Rafus.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is David Rafus, and my son is a kindergartner at Matoka Elementary School. Please remove the non-transportation designation given to Green Springs West and continue to provide bus services to Green Springs West due to student safety concerns and what I believe is a short-sighted, unfortunate oversight. Regarding student safety, Matoka Elementary essentially exists as a pedestrian Alcatraz. It's inaccessible via sidewalk or designated pedestrian thoroughfares. It's off Brickback Road on a long bend where there are neither sidewalks accessible from Centerville or John Tyler Highway. Even if a student only had a 0.5-mile commute, and I'll explain how that's impossible in a second, that would be a pretty perilous journey on the edge of a busy 2-lane country road with cars flying around that bend. The bottom line is there's no current walkway that exists for safe pedestrian transport to Matoka. Regarding the unfortunate oversight, it is true that there is a portion of Green Springs West within 0.5 miles of Matoka Elementary. But the shortest walkable path that doesn't involve trespassing on a member's private property is anywhere from 1.3 to 1.8 miles, depending on where you live. A few private properties do have access via their backyards to Brickbat Road. However, not everybody has that access, and there are lots of transient military in that neighborhood who may not know people. In conclusion, please remove the non-designation transportation for Green Springs West.
Thank you, Mr. Rafus.
Thank you.
Amanda Scott Williams.
I'm Amanda Scott Williams, and I'm here to reiterate my neighbors having concerns about the half-mile blanket radius for no transportation zone. While we're in this zone, as they said, there's no legitimate way to get to the school that's anything near this distance. It's about 1.6 miles from our house if we actually drive. I've actually been one of the handful of people who do walk their children to Matoka this year as my backyard backs onto Brickback Road. But I don't have any plans, or I should say, for the next year I was planning on taking the bus because I have a kindergartner, and after the experience of crossing this road, it's not safe. I've been taking a 4th grader, and I stand at the edge of the yard and listen for cars. They're always coming by at about 55 because there's no crosswalk, there's no crossing guard, and there's no enforcement of the speed zone. So cars, even while the line is there, are flying past. So I was not planning on doing this with a kindergartner. There's blind curves on either side of the school, so you can't actually see the cars that are coming, and we've almost been hit by cyclists coming past because the foliage is so thick, we come out and we basically emerge from the woods. And then this morning, I also found an open pocket knife right in the entryway of going into the school. So just to reiterate, it's really not a safe zone, so I ask you to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Michael Hosang.
Good evening. Are you going to eat her pussy? Yeah, Earl, I'm going to eat her pussy. Yeah? Yay? Do you even know how to eat pussy? Not really. Papa Gaines never sat you down, said, son, one day you're going to have to eat the pussy? No, but he did teach me how to eat butthole. God bless that man. This is from a book that has recently been removed from the school library, and several teachers and parents are trying to get this book reinstated into this library currently. But I'm just trying to figure out, why is it that these teachers and parents want this type of book in schools? Our schools are meant for learning, not to sexualize our children, not to desensitize them, and definitely not to indoctrinate them. There's a clear reason why this book has been one of the most removed books from schools in the country. The American Library Association has stated that it's because it was considered sexually explicit and degrading to women, as well as its inclusion of profanity. But some teachers and parents still think this has literary value. And this has nothing to do with banning books, because if it did, these same teachers and parents would have been up here and talking to you regarding the banning of the comic book series that the school system did a few months ago, and you didn't hear anything from them. So it's not about banning books, but it's simply about protecting our children. Our schools need to get back to teaching our children and not trying to indoctrinate them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hossain.
Oscar Murillo.
Good evening. My name is Oscar Murillo, and I'm a parent of a child at Matoka Elementary School and soon to have a second child there. I'm speaking tonight to oppose the recommendation changes to the elementary school transportation policy. I understand that the goal of the recommended changes is to save the district money, but I also believe that there should be other factors to be considered and not solely the cost. First off, with the non-transportation zone, walking and biking should be the primary reason for the change. However, at Matoka Elementary School, there are not sufficient sidewalks that allow parents and children to safely and easily access the school. Also, if the next item to be considered is for parents to drive, could we have consideration for the driving distance that actually will occur? I live in Green Springs West community. I'm within the 0.5 mile non-transportation zone, but our driving distance is 1.6 miles. There are homes outside of the 0.5 mile radius that have a shorter driving distance, which is less than a mile. I am asking the board to reconsider these factors, or reconsider the changes and apply these other factors before making a blanket change to the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jessica Anderson.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Anderson. I'm here to discuss the recent decision to remove me, Earl, and the Dying Girl from the school libraries of LHS and JHS. This decision was not only done with little to no transparency, but it also goes against WJCC policy. I've reviewed the book policies KLB, KLBR, and reviewed the complaint form KLBE. Every single one of these policies clearly states the books in question must be considered instructional material. According to Code 2A, Section 1, library materials are considered instructional materials when used for completion of an assignment from WJCC Public Schools or as part of an academic or extracurricular education program conducted by WJCC schools. According to this policy manual, publicly available books in our high school libraries do not fall under either of these descriptions. In addition, despite the claim made in a recent article, removing a book from our public school shelves is a book ban and is unconstitutionally infringement on more than 2,200 students and the families of said students that had zero input in this decision. Since the school board does have the final say, I would ask you to revisit this matter and ensure this book remains publicly available in both high schools. I also request that future public school library books not be put on the chopping block through these types of review committees when the language of WJCC policy does not support those decisions. I also want to state as a parent of 2 current WJCC students, I am perfectly capable of regulating and parenting my students on what I deem appropriate for independent reading. I do not need local officials or other parents making those decisions for me and overriding my parental rights. This is a slippery slope that opens the door for future arbitrary book bans, and one of the reasons I'm running delegate in this district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Tijuana Golson. I don't know if I got that right, but.
It was a long walk. Great day. I'm Tawana Golson. I'm a proud Nana of 2 grand boys in Tawana Middle School. Had the opportunity to watch a work session that you guys had on May 2nd, reference an alternative school presentation. I would like to suggest that parents and grandparents and other community organizations be a part of that conversation. It would do my heart well if you guys will host something where we can come in and also have a say or suggestions in that program. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to rally people. Don't want to just put a suggestion out there without saying that I'm willing to help. So that's my suggestion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Golson.
Megan McKnight.
My name is Megan McKnight. I'm a teacher in WJCC. I'm also the parent of a recent graduate of WJCC schools and 2 current students in WJCC schools. My background includes a lot of loss and death, including the death of my father in service to our country, and I know the importance of stories and books in helping students find healing. I want to share comments from a former student and a student regarding the book that was recently removed from school libraries. A former student said of a different book that the trauma that she read in that book helped her deal with her own trauma and was cathartic. Stories help us heal. One of my current students wrote, and I will share his entire thing with you later. He said, removing this book from school libraries effectively makes it unavailable to many students who do not have reliable transportation or money to purchase books. This creates a division between haves and have-nots. Students should have access to books that they can connect with. Me, Earl and the Dying Girl deals with love, loss, grief, and friendship, which are things every student deals with. Some community members are concerned about the language used in the book. However, removing this book will not prevent students from being exposed to this language. We hear it in our music, from our friends, online, and in movies and television. Removing this book will prevent students from having access to literature that could help them process difficult emotions. The WJCC School Board must act now to bring this book back to our school library so that every student can have easy access to obtain it. Thank you.
Ms. Knight.
Tamari Golson-Coles.
Hello, my name is Timari Golson-Coles. I have 2 sons at Towano Middle School. I have a nephew at War Hill High School, and I have a nephew at Norge Elementary School. At the middle school and the high school, my children have dealt with racism by way of the cellular device. There is an application on the phone where there are sounds making the sounds of a whip, and there are students who are running up to students of color and playing this app, and the app lights up and it makes the sound of a whip. It has been addressed as a way of saying, do not play audios in school. It needs to be addressed further so that the descendants can understand what it's doing to the descendants of my ancestors and us while we still have to go to this school. Our children still have to go to this school. So just saying that we should not play audio is not enough. There needs to be some sort of assembly. There needs to be some sort of recording sent home so that the parents of these children can understand what their children are doing to my children, for one. For 2, our notifications on when our children are not in school need to be put faster, because what if they were abducted? Forget truancy. What if they were abducted and I'm not getting it until 2 p.m. that my child wasn't in school? That needs to be addressed. The third thing that needs to be addressed is the punishments for females versus the punishments for males. I have male children. Females need to know that it's not okay to put their hands on male children, because the male children are getting punished quickly as the aggressor, and the female children are not.
Thank you, Ms. Coles. I do have to
You're
stop you
welcome.
there. Thank you.
Justin and Lakia Andrews.
You can disregard, I have already sent my information to the appropriate party at the school board.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for being here.
Susan Hildum.
Greetings. I'm Susan Hildum, representing the York, James City, Williamsburg NAACP Education Committee. A few months ago, I had an opportunity to see the Bray School move from Prince George Street to its new home in Colonial Williamsburg. It was a beautiful day, and there was some ceremony with many dignitaries on hand for the occasion. There were proud descendants of the Bray School students in attendance as well. I jotted down some statements from some of the speakers at the time. Colonial Williamsburg Foundation President Cliff Fleet said, "Let's teach our history fully and completely. not to divide, but to unite. And my understanding of his statement is that if we all understand the many threads of our American history, we will understand one another better. And Governor Glenn Youngkin, during his speech, said we should teach our history, the good and the bad. We should teach all our history, the good and the bad. And I take him at his word, and I hope this school district will continue to support this concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hildum.
Phyllis Eastman.
Good evening. We are in an asymmetrical battle for America. It's a war, and this school board is a part of it. One battlefront is the sexualization of our children from kindergarten through the senior year. One would ask why. I have only 90 seconds, but I could share a lot of reasons. I do have some questions for you. Does the librarian in each school select the books that go into the library? Does she have a list or he have a list? What bureaucrat or agencies provide the list? Do librarians, if they select the books, have to choose books with pornography, sexually explicit books, books on alternative sex acts, and profanity? Must she do that, or he? Does the school board have a say in that policy? If the job of the school system is to teach profanity, why don't the members of this board use profanity in their expressed views? If the 15% of students nationwide are not proficient in civics, is the goal of the school system to have a higher proficiency in sexual knowledge? When I taught school in the 11th grade, if you used profanity, I took you in the hall and we had a personal conversation. So why did Jamestown High School in Lafayette have a book with tremendous number of profane words, including the F word 83 times? A book with graphic sexual depictions and sex acts and instructions on how to have phone sex.
Thank you, Ms. Eastman.
Thank you.
Yiyan Ji.
Hi, my name is Shurchi. Actually, I'm here for my wife. She has to go.
Oh, otherwise I got that really wrong. Okay.
So I'm here also for the Matoka non-transportation zone. So I have two sons. One is currently at Matoka, and one is an upcoming kindergartner. So I'm trained as an economist. I fully understand that the district want to be more efficient with the taxpayers' dollars. So there are two things besides what my neighbor just pointed out: safety issues, and it's not directly a half-mile distance. I just want to point out two things that does not make any sense. So there are two bus routes going through our neighborhood. So our neighbors have to go out the neighborhood at the same exact exit. But our side of the neighborhood, we don't have bus anymore, but they still have bus. How is that fair, or how is that efficient? And the other thing is, on my street, literally just 2 houses down, a neighbor, she has bus, but we don't have bus. It feels like literally someone just draw a circle, and within that circle, we don't have bus. Outside the circle, you have bus. I just believe there's more efficient way the school district can decide how to cut costs. I just want to point out, many of the kids on the bus have pointed out that there is excess capacity on the bus. Maybe that's somewhere you can think about how to save money rather than cutting buses.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And our final speaker is Stephanie Carlisle.
Hi, Hi, my name is Allison Foley, and Stephanie's actually graciously gifted me her time. I'm a parent of 2 other students at Laurel Lane.
Is
do
Ms.
that.
Carlisle here?
Yes, she's here.
Unfortunately, not able to yield your time to another person.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize you had to
Would
sign
you
a
be willing
card
to
to
speak,
come in.
ma'am?
Sure, sorry. Trying to follow all
Thank
the
you for
rules.
understanding. I
No,
appreciate it.
no problem.
This is Allison's words. My husband and I have 2 children at Laurel Lane Elementary School, including our son who's in kindergarten. Thanks to the feedback from his teacher, we were happy to learn our son is above grade level in many areas. The administration of the school clearly care about the students' individual needs and have coordinated with other classrooms to allow our son to participate in higher grade reading and math sessions in these classrooms. I give you this context to preface my concerns. My son's kindergarten classroom learning has experienced significant physical disruptions this year. He is losing instructional time in his kindergarten classroom due to the disruptions. The children have been evacuated multiple times due to a child whose behavior is inappropriate, including screaming, flipping shelves, and throwing chairs. Despite multiple interventions from the staff, this behavior continues and is unsafe for fellow students and faculty. Many of my good friends are public educators in the Hampton Roads area, and I am an ardent advocate for inclusive learning. However, there must be a hard line drawn when it comes to physical safety. I was incredibly disappointed to learn that we do not have more alternative education options in WJCC. We need to look no further than our neighboring city of Newport News this year for the consequences of turning a blind eye to escalating events. I am concerned that the school board has not adequately acknowledged the challenges in this situation, nor made changes to adequately deal with these behaviors.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you to all who did come out and offer your perspective on various different issues. The board does hear them and does take them to heart, as well, the school division administration. So thank you for lending your voice tonight. Move on to item 7.1. We have a proposed agenda item, review application for the VSBA Excellence and Workforce Readiness Award. Dr. Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This evening, Ms. Walter and 2 of her colleagues are going to present a potential application for a VSB Workforce Excellence Award. This award requires a presentation before the board and the board's approval this evening. Ms. Walter?
And we're set to take action on this later and under one of our action items.
Excellent. And Ms. Walter will introduce her 2 colleagues tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Dr. Herron, and members of the board. Thank you for having us this evening. I am here with Ms. Sherry Thrift, WJCC career coach, and Ms. Melissa Che, our CTE coordinator. The Virginia School Boards Association annually recognizes school divisions within Virginia who have achieved excellence in workforce readiness through an innovative program or project within their school community. The Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award holds an emphasis on communication and collaboration with the business community, student engagement with the business community, or student entrepreneurial activities. A requirement of each application for this recognition is that the entry is approved by the local school board at a school board meeting. Tonight, it is our privilege to present to you the WJCC application for the Virginia School Boards Association Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award for our work in the creation and implementation of a mock interview program for high school students in WJCC. In alignment with our strategic plan, Elevate Beyond Excellence, the VSBA Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award application supports academic achievement, college and career readiness, educational equity and access for all students, and communication and engagement of a variety of stakeholders.
In the fall of 2021, the WJCC School Board's Career Ready Advisory Committee met to discuss CTE programmatic needs. The committee discussed feedback from students, families, and local businesses that indicated students lacked both interview experience and the knowledge of how to prepare for an interview. With this in mind, the committee worked to develop a program that provided instruction on resume writing and interview skills, leading up to a mock interview experience. A first step in program development was to create connections with community partners. Through the committee's efforts, we have been able to secure over 100 volunteer interviewers for both years of the program. In order to engage with all students, the program was embedded within the Economics and Personal Finance course. By incorporating this into the EPF curriculum, We not only meet workplace readiness standards aligned with the course, but ensure that all students have this opportunity in high school, since EPF is a graduation requirement. To support implementation, instructional materials were provided to EPF teachers prior to the start of the program. To ensure program success, structures were created that would allow for consistency and feedback for students. The committee prepared packets for each interviewer that consisted of sample interview questions, student evaluation forms, and event evaluations. These evaluations provide important feedback to students, teachers, and the committee to help strengthen the program.
Providing engaging instruction on workforce readiness skills is essential to this program. To prepare, students begin by investigating a career of their choice to identify characteristics such as skills, education and training, and work environment. Next, students evaluate sample resumes and cover letters for essential components and structure. After analyzing model resumes, students create their own resume and cover letter. Students then observe sample interviews identifying positive and negative behaviors, leading to practice interviews with peers and providing one another feedback. Not only does this give them an opportunity to articulate their ideas before their mock interview, but it helps to build confidence and hone their communication skills.
In year one of the program, 483 students participated in a mock interview experience and 105 community members from a variety of local businesses and industries. By expanding the program to all EPF courses in year two, 619 WJCC students participated in the mock interview program and 106 community members from various local businesses and industries also participated, with many returning for the second year. Annual data collection of student participation, community participation, and evaluation feedback will continue and allows the planning team to make appropriate adjustments to enhance the experience for both students and community partners each year. Business and industry engagement in the mock interview program was not only extensive but enthusiastic. This excitement and partnering allowed for the engagement to move beyond this event and has led to participation in additional events, such as our first annual Career Connections Fair, where 45 business and industry partners shared information about the organization and provided details on available career opportunities and work-based learning experiences. The mock interview program has also led to the development of our senior employment event. Through this event, business and industry partners who also participate in the mock interview event come on site during the school day and interview seniors interested in entering the workforce directly after graduation. This opportunity allows the practice from the mock interviews to be put into action with an on-site job interview and the potential to have a full-time career upon graduation in June. When reviewing our mock interview program for this award, it was necessary to consider how we stand out among other mock interview experiences in the Commonwealth. In WJCC, our inclusion of this experience within EPF classes allows for all students to participate during their years in high school. Additionally, the comprehensive and engaging instruction provided to students leading up to the actual mock interview prepares students for their experience and builds their confidence. And finally, the large amount of community partners that provide our students with a meaningful mock interview experience and feedback from adults in the workforce is essential to the success of our program. Thank you for your time this evening. This concludes our formal presentation. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Walters. Any questions from the board? Yes, Ms. Sortigo.
No questions, but I was on this committee last year as a brand new board member, and I know my colleague Ms. Saunders on it now, and I was just always impressed from the beginning. It was such a great idea, and the fact that it launched so well, and it's such a large scale, its first year, I just think it's awesome, and I hope that you win.
Thank you, Ms. Sortigo. Ms. Hummel.
I'll just say it was a pleasure to participate in the mock interviews. I know we had multiple people on this dais that participated, and all of us felt like it was such a valuable exercise for the students. And so thank you, regardless of the award, thank you for just getting it all done for our students.
Thank you for joining and providing interviews.
I can speak as a parent, just the benefit of this program for our students. My daughter was a part of this mock interview process, and I think the professional that was interviewing her was from Centera. She came away glowing, got a lot of great feedback. This individual said, "You ought to come work for Centera." Our family's got a long history of nurses and medical in the medical field. But I mean, feel-good story. My daughter's actually now volunteering at Centera, so she's taking it to heart, and I'm just a proud dad. I'm really thankful, really grateful for this whole process and introducing her to what's out there. So thank you, all of you, to all of your hard work. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. A few items for me to read here, and then I'll ask for a motion. In fact, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read, with item 8.1, the approval of financial report and monthly bills and payroll for April of 2023. Item 8.2, approval of minutes from April 18, 2023's meeting. 8.3, approval of minutes from May 2nd, 2023's meeting. 8.4, approval of release from compulsory attendance in case number R2223-06. 8.5, approval of revisions to policy IIBEA/GAB. Acceptable technology system use. Item 8.6, approval of revisions to policy KBA, request for information. 8.7, approval of retirement of policy KFAA, code of conduct for spectators. And finally, item 8.8, approval of revisions to policy LBD, home instruction. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young. Aye. Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Thank you. And then on to our action items for the evening. I see you up here. I haven't missed anything, right? We're good? Okay. Just want to make sure I haven't overlooked anything. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of the FY24 budget?
Mr. Chair, I move that we hear the adoption of the fiscal year 24
Stand by.
You made the right place. No, it's just I turned it off. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the adoption of the fiscal year 24 budget in the amount of $191,890,000.
Is that the correct verbiage?
Second.
We need to read that entire action item, please, Ms. Young.
Okay.
This includes,
Is this where it says move to adopt?
Recommended action.
Okay.
Recommend, do you see that?
I do, right here. Yeah. Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the fiscal year 24 budget in the amount of $191,890,000. This includes $171,631,500 for the operating fund, $11,779,900 for the grants fund, $1,240,600 for the state operated programs fund, and $7,238,000 for the child nutrition services fund.
thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Donner, any discussion? I'll turn it over to Dr. Herron for a moment. Or is there discussion before we did so?
Mr. Dowell, Ms. Ewan has a very short presentation just to summarize what we're doing this evening visually for the board and for the public.
Thank you, Dr. Herron. Thank you, Ms. Ewing.
Thank you, Dr. Herron. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Last week, James City County and the City of Williamsburg adopted their budgets for fiscal year 24. And while the amount of funding allocated to the school division was less than requested, the county did adopt a budget giving flexibility to the county administrator to allocate contingency funding to the school division if no additional funds are approved by the state. We are very appreciative of this, as it will allow us to move forward with a budget that will include a 7% pay increase for eligible staff and allow issuance of employment contracts. In addition, our state revenue is also impacted by the passing of the skinny budget, as no budget compromise has been reached at the state level. Prior to the board's adoption of the budget this evening, I will review the necessary changes to balance our operating budget. This chart shows the revenue breakdown as approved in March by the board as compared to what has been allocated to us by the localities and the state. As I previously mentioned, the state revenue is based on the skinny budget, which is a reduction in revenue of approximately $437,000. This is primarily related to removal of the one-time 1% bonus payment that was included in the governor's proposed budget. The local appropriations reflect the approved amounts by localities, which does include the $2 million contingency from James City County. The reduction in revenue compared to the school board request is approximately $3.9 million. Overall, revenue reductions amount to $4.4 million for a total operating fund budget of $171,631,500 for next year. If additional funding is approved by the state for fiscal year 24, we will amend the budget at that time to reflect a change in the source of funds. In order to balance the budget on the expenditure side, the salary increase will change from 10% to 7%. The one-time 1% bonus payment will be removed, as that is not funded in the state's skinny budget. Workers' compensation insurance will be reduced based on our actual renewal, and we will add funds to support the middle school athletic trainer contract. These adjustments will balance our expenditure budget with the revenue budget. Again, the 7% pay increase is only possible with the support from our funding partners, to which we are very grateful. The total of all funds, including operating, grants, state-operated programs, and child nutrition services funds, amounts to a total of $191,890,000 for fiscal year 24. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, what questions do we have for Ms. Ewing before we proceed on this item? I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Ewing, for all the work that you've done, Dr. Herron, and your leadership, and also maintaining the level of communication between us and your counterpart at the county and the city. Many conversations, I'm sure, just to make sure that our needs, the needs of the division, are expressed and articulated in a way that continues to garner the support that we've long since enjoyed with our funding partners. So thank you for all that you have done, and Dr. Herron and everyone else that's had a part in those conversations. And I appreciate that our funding partners, both county and city, have been willing to take these efforts, take these steps to doing what they could to help support these efforts in retaining high qualified, much needed staff as shortages are just rampant right now. So I think this will go a long way. So thank you. Any last comments or questions or concerns before we take action on this item? Okay. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega?
Aye.
Mr. Dowell?
Aye. Thank you. Move on to item 9.2, approval to adopt amended 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 24 through 28. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the amended 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 24 through fiscal year 28 in the amount of $87,913,775.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. And before we ask for questions or comments, maybe Ms. Ewing, you have something to offer?
I have a small little
Okay.
slideshow.
Go for it.
This evening, I'll review what was approved in the school board's capital improvement plan for fiscal year '24 as it compares to what was funded by the city and county. The important thing to remember about the capital improvement plan is the first year of the plan is the funded year, and the remaining 4 years are just a plan. Within the school board's approved plan for fiscal year '24, we requested the following projects, which have been funded by the localities: repainting CMU walls and replacing carpet at Matoka, replacement of the lift station generator and walk-in refrigerator freezer at Stonehouse, as well as design funds for the HVAC replacement, replacement of light fixtures and carpet, as well as repainting the interior at Berkeley, weight room renovation at Jamestown, replacement of tennis courts and track at Lafayette, division-wide funding for parking lots, sidewalks, brickwork, concrete repairs, and playground equipment, as well as new funding for safety and security items, storm drain repairs, and the bus replacements have been funded in the CIP. Funding for buses in the first year of the plan is less than requested, but I'm currently working with my counterparts at the county and city to identify project balances and completed projects that can be transferred so we can still purchase 10 buses and maintain our current replacement plan. Future years do not have a reduction in this funding. Construction funding for the Jamestown cafeteria expansion and renovation of the 900 building at Lafayette are included. Construction funding for the pre-K centers is included, but it is $10.9 million less than requested. In total, we requested $53,015,000 in fiscal year '24, and the localities have funded $41,679,775. The school board approved CIP for fiscal years '24 through '28 was requested for $165,246,000, and the localities have a plan that totals $87,913,775 for a difference of approximately $77.3 million. The majority of this difference has to do with a reduction in the funding for the pre-K space construction in fiscal year '24, as well as the removal of the 10th elementary school in fiscal years '27 and '28. Overall, our capital improvement plan has been supported with the exception of the larger construction projects. We are grateful for the support of our funding partners so that we can continue maintaining and improving our facilities.
Thank you, Ms. Ewing. Questions for Ms. Ewing? Our amended CIP? I just want to ask, is it correct to say that the difference between our number for the pre-K space versus the county and their number, is it correct to say that the county is more or less on a wait and see what actually needs to be built based on the design?
I believe that might be an accurate statement, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. I think we're ready to take action on this. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye. Sorry, I thought you said Hundley.
Mrs. Hundley?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Mr. Dowell?
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Ewing. All right. Item 3, 9.3, approval of revisions to the 2023 school board meeting dates. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the revisions to the 2023 school board meeting dates as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any discussion? Just as a reminder, this was an effort to move our November 21st meeting that is smack right up against Thanksgiving and push it out to the 28th, which then pushes our December 5th meeting to the 12th. I don't think we had any issues and concerns with that last 2 weeks ago. I think we're all still good. Sounds like you guys are a quiet bunch tonight. That's good. Ms. Aller, if you'd take the roll, please.
Mrs. Ortego?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley?
Aye.
Mr. Dowell?
Aye. Thank you. Item 9.4, approval of award of contract for request for proposal 2023-0780 mass notification system. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the award of contract for request for proposal number 202-30780, mass notification system to Aptigee for an initial setup cost of $24,000 and an annual cost of $56,500 with a contract renewal option for 4 additional years.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Any discussion? Anything need clarified? So this is just updating our offerings in which we send out mass emails, mass text messages, and even phone calls to parents and guardians. Okay, Ms. Haller?
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel. Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Dow.
Aye. Item 9.5, approval of award of contract for request for proposal 20230818, certified athletic trainer services for middle school students. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the award of contract for request for proposal 202-30818, certified athletic trainer services for middle school students to Riverside for a total cost of $115,000 per school year.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Any discussion? You've got a question on your face?
I'm thinking back to the budget. What was the allotted? There was some money allotted. Was that for a trainer? That was part of the budget.
Yeah, Ms. Young, what happened is at the last board meeting, the board considered this contract that we already have, that it increased in this school year because of personnel costs and because we had a reduction in the workers' comp insurance. We were able to increase this contract because that was reduced and still balance the budget for next year.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other points of clarification? Okay, Ms. Haller?
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Mr. Dow.
Aye. 9.6, approval of request, purchase, and subscription for Raptor Technologies. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kim.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the purchase request and subscription for Rapture Technologies using TIPS contract hashtag number 200105 for the total agreement cost of $103,239 with a projected recurring cost of $84,103.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Again, open up to discussion before we take action. So just as a reminder, this is ties in directly to our effort to respond to the threat and vulnerability assessment that we received from Major Finterest, was it over a year ago now, maybe longer, and there's a whole suite of offerings that the Raptor technology will provide us. I think Ms. Young, you were not here for that, but just to give you some sort of indication as to what this is for.
Yeah, thank you. I'm familiar. I think we've done this in other years, so.
Okay. All right, Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dow.
Aye. Item 9.7, approval of lease agreement for cell tower with Milestone Towers on the site of Lois Hornsby Middle School. Is there a motion? Anyone at all?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the lease agreement for a cellular tower with Milestone Towers on the site of Lois Hornsby Middle School as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. You notice I went with cell. I knew I was going to fumble that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there any discussion or further clarification that needs to be had? Ms. Ortego?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think I asked at the last meeting if there was a reason that the school property was approached rather than surrounding county land. It seems to be best land surrounding the school. And I don't know if we heard
Yeah,
back on
I'm
that.
going to pass that to Mr. Kiever, who was directly involved in the process.
I cannot speak necessarily to why another entity was not approached. I can say that because of the parcel of land that the school division owns and the need for a tower in the particular area based on carriers, that's why we were asked.
And do you have like numbers on regulations on safety, distance, and radiation, and if 5G will impact that at all?
I do. I've got some information from the Federal Communications Commission with respect to the radio frequencies and how that might impact people nearby the cellular tower. And based on, I can actually read a statement from the FCC if that would be helpful.
That'd be great.
Let me read the right part because there's a lot of technical language in here. I just want to make sure that I get the right piece for you. Consequently, normal ground level exposure is much less than the exposure that might be encountered if one were very close to the top of the antenna and its main transmitted beams. As with all forms of electromagnetic energy, the power density from cellular or PCS transmitter rapidly decreases as the distance from the antenna increases. An ERP of 100 watts corresponds to an actual radiated power of 5 to 10 watts, depending on the type of antenna used. And Milestone Towers indicates that the power density levels for exterior spaces near the towers were 121,793 times lower than the FCC standard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kiever.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for the question, Ms. Ortega. Any others? Okay. All right. Thank you again. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Mr. Dowell?
Aye. Item 9.8, approval of award of contract for invitation for bid number 2023-1000 Laurel Lane Elementary School interior refurbishment. May I have a motion on this item?
Mr. Chair, I move to the award of contract for invitation for bid number 2023-1000 at Laurel Lane Elementary School interior refurbishment to Centennial Contractors in the amount of $435,000.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Any discussion? So just as a reminder, the projects would consist of removal, demolition, and replacement of finished materials, painting of interior concrete masonry, and then painting of hollow metal frames according to contract documents. And I know Mr. Snipes has those contract documents, I assume. Okay. All right. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Mrs. Donner?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mr. Dowell?
Aye. Item 9.9, approval of award of annual contract number 21-14760, resurface the athletic track at Lafayette High School. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the award of annual contract 21-14760, resurface the athletic track at Lafayette High School to Centennial Contractors in the amount of $498,802.13.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Again, open up to discussion. I am looking, I remember kind of shuddering at how many years it had been since Lafayette had a track resurfaced, a new track. It was many, many, many years. And it's just absolutely time for the safety of everybody that uses that track. So very much in support of it. Ms. Aller.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. And then back at Lafayette, item 910, approval of award of annual contract number 2114760, repair the tennis courts at Lafayette High School.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the award of annual contract number 21-14760, repair the tennis courts at Lafayette High School to Centennial Contractors in the amount of $498,028.13.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you again, Ms. Hundley. Again, you guys know the drill. Questions or comments? No? Okay.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. I'm going to hold my question to the end until after I've got a question now, but it doesn't matter. They're both approved. Item 911, approval of the Advanced Placement Statistics textbook and textbook materials adoption.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the adoption of the Advanced Placement AP Statistics textbook and textbook materials from Savas Learning Company as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hunley, for the second. Thank
Second.
you, Ms. Donner, for the motion.
Second.
And Dr. Beers for your support. All right. Any discussion at all? Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right, item 9.12, approval of the WJCC Family Life Education Community Involvement Team's recommendations. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the WJCC Family Life Education Community Involvement Team's recommendations as presented.
Okay. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Hunley.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Before I ask for any discussion, I do want to read those recommendations. I think it would be appropriate. There are 5 recommendations from the committee to provide structured in-person and virtual parent sessions throughout the year to address questions prior to opt-out decision-making. Number 2, parent guides will be posted on the WJCC website. Item 3, all family life instructional resources will be placed in an accessible OneDrive folder for community access from the WJCC website. Schools will continue to house a paper copy in each school building. Item 4, opt-out forms for family life education will be reformatted. Updated forms will be digital, fillable forms where responses can be tracked and monitored. And then item 5, all K-5 classroom teachers, school counselors, and school nurses receive the VDOE Family Life Basics training module prior to teaching family life. Paraprofessionals will be included in opportunities to take the training. Administrators will complete the VDOE Family Life Administrators course as soon as it is available. And if I remember correctly, all 5 of these recommendations were adopted unanimously by the committee. Right. Any further questions or clarification on what we're? Yes, Ms.
I just have a clarification or a question. So we are approving these recommendations, and then at what point, I guess I'll toss it over to Dr. Herron, at what point does this get updated in the regulations? Like what happens operationally to have these recommendations take effect?
Yep, all of the work behind the scenes to make this happen will happen over the summer, and they'll be implemented next school year.
In the
just as part of our process,
Okay.
all of the documents will be available. All the recommendations of the committee will be put into place in the next school year.
Okay.
And I think maybe to piggyback on Ms. Hummel's question, the school board might not see regulations. We might not be a part of that, but if there were any policies that need to be addressed, those will be pulled up.
Yes, I
if they
believe
need to be.
the family life education policy is coming very soon. Mr. Keever, want to confirm that for me?
Believe goes to policy next week.
Perfect.
And any changes, it'll reflect any necessary changes within policy.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Okay. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Ms. Riddell.
Aye. All right, item 9.13, approval of application for the VSBA Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the application of the VSBA Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Ms. Hummel. Ms. Hummel, thank you for the second. I just want to again say thank you to the team for all the hard work and the effort that goes into putting together a fantastic program like this. And yeah, I'm a fan, so if you couldn't tell, I believe in it. So thank you so much. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers. Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Okay, if I can have a motion on item 9.14 to approve the personnel actions as presented this evening.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve personnel actions as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. And we'll move on to item 9.15, approval of the personnel appointment book. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the annual personnel appointment book for fiscal year 2023-2024 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Huntley. Do I have a second on this item?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. And finally, item 9.16, approval of the pay scales and classification plan. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the pay scales and classification plan for fiscal year 2023-2024 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Can I have a second on this item?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Pregnant pause. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right, thank you all. We're going to move on to our board member comments of the evening. If I might start with Ms. Donner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say it was wonderful to see our young person today come and speak and to, right, that is, I think, what we are aiming to teach our children is how to speak up and be part of the civic process. And so it was wonderful to hear that. I think as we have talked about many different issues, and some have come to us in email, some have been presented. I think as a board, one of the things that we're responsible for, it's three things. It's the budget, the superintendent, and policies. And so I think based on lots of things that have happened, looking at our policies and really being thoughtful about them is something that we as a board are charged to do. And so I just appreciate the board as we have started to work on and think through different policies and looking at where do we need to make changes and adjustments. On a lighter note, I had really great fun at the Strawberry Festival. I think we had 1,000, from what I heard, people register for the Strawberry Festival at Matthew Whaley. And I just think as we, as a board member, going into the schools and attending those events, for me, it's regrounding about why we are here and what we are here to do. There are lots of things that are out in the broader world that can pull our attention or be part of different ideologies and thoughts, but regrounding on we're here for the students. We're here to give them joy. We're here to support them as adults. It was wonderful to see I love our school resource officers, and to see the interaction between him and this one particular child. And so, just seeing that as much as there can be thoughts about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what's happening, what's not happening. There's lots of really fantastic things happening in the schools, and I just don't want us to lose sight of that, particularly as we as adults have our views and things that we bring forward, and just really regrounding on it's for the kids, and making sure that our behavior as we go through and as we have conversations, right, the kids are watching. And so how are we conducting ourselves? So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Ms. Hundley?
Yes, I also went to the Strawberry Fest with Miss Donner. I was blocking all the golf balls that the kids were hitting. Parents, please get your kids back into putt-putt golf. I saw so many grips, and they're trying to hit the ball like it was. So I was trying, and the nice thing, though, we gave them 6, 7, 8 chances to get it in that hole, and then they got a prize. So, but to see that many people and those families was great. I was able to go to Bright Beginnings, invited me to the preschoolers put on the three little pigs. They had Mr. Charlie Williams, who was one of our volunteers that was recognized here last month, made a marquee for the children. They had programs. They invited the other 3 classrooms, and they made their set. And it was phenomenal. They had their speaking roles. They had at the end, the audience, the children could ask them questions. They got, in lieu of flowers, they got the leapfrog. Each of them got a signed leapfrog computer device, and pizza party, and also an ice cream party. And I thought about them when I was at Freaky Friday at War Hill, and how I was holding the playbill, and some of those kids will tell you when they got to their first acting role. And I said, I bet you in about 12 years, some of those children will say, my first play was in my Bright Beginnings class, and I was the pig or I was the wolf. Also with Freaky Friday, the fine arts just always amaze me. And I just really thought about that message that the kids, when the mother switched places with the daughter and was in her shoes. And I always I've always tried to be that kind of person, to stand in someone else's shoes. We learn a lot when we step into someone else's shoes. And so that's the one thing that really resonated with me with that play, and how well they did that and the things that they learned. Also, the teacher appreciation and for the teachers of the year and the rookies of the year was very heart-warming for me. The rookie part is very interesting because I remember being that first-year teacher, and it's really difficult and it's hard. And my first year, I'm quite sure I would have been fired now these days for there were 3 things I did that I just didn't know were right. But when I think about that and how we have them to have mentors now and people to support them and help them to become the teachers that they will be in the future and learn from, I saw the videos and the things that they talked about, which gives them joy in teaching, and I just thought that's where our focus should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Coming back to Ms. Ortego, if we can, Dr. Beers, if you're ready.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to once again recognize all the hardworking teachers and support staff that were identified and recognized tonight. I don't think we can praise them and recognize them enough. They really are. They truly are the sort of the people that most of the public doesn't see very often, and I think it's really important to do that. The other comment I would make is, of course, I support the Workforce Readiness Award grant. One of the things that I'm no longer amazed, because I recognize our ability to get students ready for the workforce. All you have to do is look at the number of licenses and certifications that our high school kids get, and how many of them are ready to go right to work, already have jobs before they even graduate as seniors. So I can't say enough about it. I think it's really outstanding.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Ms. Young.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to again congratulate the nurses. After having observed what our nurses do in our schools, they deserve every award that they work towards. They are amazing, and they do so many things that we don't even think about. I think about nurses putting on bandages and passing out medicine at different times of the day, but they do so much more, as has been evidenced by what's going on in our schools, including providing much needed personal care items, clothing, and other services to our students. And those are way behind the scenes, which is the same with our support staff. They do so many things that we don't always talk about, and they're very much appreciated. I did enjoy the young speaker tonight. I wanted to stand up and give her a standing ovation because she did an excellent job with her 5 points. And she didn't waffle around, and she even held up her fingers to let us know which point she was on, and I appreciated that. The other day when I was on the bus coming back from the airport, I spoke with a young man. This goes to workforce, and he talked about he worked for a steel mill in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona. All I could think about is, wow, that had to be hot, and it was. But he talked about he had a college degree, but he said, I didn't need it for the job that I ended up doing. And he said he wishes that that he would have been told in high school that he did not have to go to college, because his job paid over $100,000 a year. And as we know, many of our teachers, most of our teachers probably don't achieve that in their work life. But he talked about that first or second year person working in a steel mill could make between $100,000 and $150,000. And all I could think to myself, I don't want to do that job. I would never last doing that. But for people that want to work with our hands, are the CTE programs that is being proposed from New Horizons and from our own people in the school district. I hope we let students know what's out there for them, because it just, as I listened to this young man talk, all he talked about is the 4 years he felt like he could have wasted. He dropped out after a couple of years because he wasn't for him. But there's so many opportunities out there, and letting our kids know that they're there, I think, is so critical. And I appreciate all that we're doing to advance that. And that's the end of my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Hummel.
Hi, thank you. I would also like to thank the support employees, the nurses, and the teachers for all the work that they do. I keep thinking, the teachers are the face of our school system. And when we hear all those wonderful things that Dr. Heron was quoting tonight, it just reminds us, like my other fellow board member said, this is why we're all here. It's to support the kids who are being supported by the teachers and our support employees, which I think of them as the backbone, and then I think of our nurses as the heart. I just want to say that we have come a long way. Sometimes we lose sight of the progress that we make in our day-to-day discussions. But my mother was here during WJCC and worked for the school division and argued successfully to get a school nurse in every single school. So we shouldn't take for granted that not every school system has a nurse in every single school. So I think that all of the things that we can be thankful for, knowing that if our kids get sick, there's a school nurse there for them, there's somebody that's trained. These were RNs that were recognized tonight, and it's a very high educational attainment, and those people are the ones that are taking care of our kids when something goes wrong. So I just wanted to recognize them. I also wanted to say that policies are, as Mrs. Donner said, a very important part of a school board member's responsibility. And when some of these issues come up, it becomes clear to us that we need to look at our policies. We need to see what's causing confusion, what's causing what needs to be tightened up, what needs to be clarified, what needs to be transparent. So I guess I'm looking forward to having those policies brought up in the future, near future, correct? Where we will try to tighten things up so it's clear for all sides of an issue where, what the rules are and the policies. And then I do want to say that I appreciate all the Matoka parents that came out tonight. When we do make changes, the school system makes changes about proposed attendance zones, it's having our speakers come out and identify and clarify what some of the issues are that make it kind of clear to all of us. So I appreciate the time that everyone spent letting us know their thoughts about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Ms. Ortega?
Thank you. Just want to reiterate the congratulations for our recipients of recognition this evening, Mr. Daniel Mullen and all of our wonderful nurses that worked extra hard and on top of their job to get an extra certification, and of course our support employees of the year. We truly couldn't, our school system wouldn't function without all of these people, and we appreciate them along with all of the teachers coming off of Teacher Appreciation Week. So thank you. Just thank you to everyone who shows up every day and buckles up and faces another day. And we know that it's a hard job, but we know it's a rewarding job, and we know that you come because you love the kids. Also, thank you to Miss Ewing and her team. This was, months and months and months of an effort to put together a budget, as it always is. Thank you to our funding partners for their collaboration and, of course, for the budget that they approved. And thank you to our speakers tonight. We did have a long list of speakers. We covered a range of topics, and I always enjoy hearing from the community. I enjoy hearing very different ideas and concerns that people have, and I enjoy watching the process happen in a polite and civic way, and that's something that's wonderful about this community and having the right to come speak and address people who are leaders in your community. And so I just encourage people to continue to come and let your voice be heard. And I do feel for the parents that spoke about young children who are having less than ideal experiences in classrooms. And I know that we are all, safety and security in every aspect is of utmost importance to this board and to our superintendent. And I know we have things that we need to look at and address, and I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues to address that situation.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. As you address Ms. Ewing, I'm just curious, does budget season, does it ever really have a start and an end, or is it just one kind of vicious cycle? It kind of feels that way. I feel for you. I do have some prepared words based on some feedback that the board has already received based on this book in question. So if you'll allow me just a moment. First, I did want to offer my gratitude to each person that's joined us this evening to provide their perspective. There certainly are varying and diverse viewpoints on the matter of this book, me and Earl and the Dying Girl. One takeaway that I can sincerely say that I've received this evening is that, and I really do believe it's one thing that we can all kind of hang our hat on and be encouraged by one way or another, is that regardless of which side of the issue one might find oneself, we all have placed a high degree of importance on the simple principle, the simple practice of reading. This simple practice is indeed a cornerstone of one's children's intellectual and social development, and we all agree with that. I think we've seen that with the robust discussion and the follow-on emails that we received over the last year and a half. So many have sent emails advocating one way or the other over the last year and a half on behalf of any number of library instructional materials. It tells this board that this community is truly invested for the benefits of our kids' education. Section 22.1-253, 13.7C2 of the Code of Virginia requires that local school boards develop policies for the selection and evaluation of all instructional materials purchased by the school division, with clear procedures for handling challenged controversial materials. The state law had led this school board to adopt policy and regulation by which public complaints about curriculum or instruction materials may be addressed. These are codified as KLB and KLBR in direct relation to that state code, first adopted in July 2006, then reviewed and revised in September 2022 by this board just last year. This is by no means to suggest that every policy is perfect, and to that end, as Ms. Hummel and Ms. Donner had asked and alluded to, policies IIAC, Library Material Selection Adoption, and policy IIBD, school libraries, media centers, are already on the docket to be reviewed by our policy committee members with the leadership of our senior leadership team. And so we'll be looking to our policy committee to review those policies and then bring us any necessary revisions that we can discuss in public. Over the last year and a half, this board has received emails questioning the appropriateness of various library materials that WJCC students are given access, as it is not the prerogative of any one member of the school board to unilaterally decide the appropriateness of a library book in question. The school board has consistently stood on and referenced our board policy as the means by which a formal review may be requested. While it is an unfortunate reality that no policy will satisfy the desires of all people at all times, this policy does provide a mechanism for teachers, parents, community members to have a voice, and then to further become engaged in a collaborative process of thought. That process, identified in KLBR, ensures that upon a formal request for review, a review committee shall be impaneled, consisting of the school principal, curriculum coordinator, teacher, librarian, parent, and/or student, and the complainant. Furthermore, the policy states that the complainant may appeal the decision to the superintendent or the superintendent's designee, which has happened in the case of this book in question. I can think of at least 2 instances of which the policy has been used by a parent to request a formal review of a book available in a WJCC library. In the former instance, the book in question was not removed from circulation. In that former matter, it appeared that the complainant, who was also a part of the review committee, also found that there was not merit for an appeal of the committee's findings, and the book remained in circulation. In this more recent matter concerning Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, the very same policy and procedures were carried out. The school board has absolutely no interest in arbitrarily restricting student access to literature. The school board and division administration, I believe, only desire to see our kids flourish and thrive socially and academically, which is best achieved through a diverse collection of literary works. At the same time, the school board has a lawful responsibility to create pathways of formal review. So I want to thank each person who has responded to that call by serving on a formal review committee. I do thank you, and I believe this board does as well. This is undoubtedly challenging and thankless work, yet so very critical toward ensuring that board policies are adhered to the greatest extent and without board intervention. And so again, I want to thank those that came out this evening to offer your perspectives as well. We do take them to heart, and of course everything will be considered as we take a look at policies down the road. With that, I'd like to move on to our upcoming events. We have the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz event on May 22nd, 9 a.m. That's going to be held at Jamestown High School. And then also at War Hill High School on the same day, both at 9 a.m. The The policy committee will be meeting on May 24th at 8:30 in the morning, room 108 in the central office here, or next door. And then the WJCC Schools 2023 Exceptional Games held on June 1st at 10:30 in the morning at Jamestown High School. And then on the same day, June 1st at 5 p.m., the GED completion ceremony at War Hill High School. I always look forward to that, a celebration of those students. Upcoming meetings. We have a closed session and work session on June 6th, 4 and 4:30 respectively, in room 300 of the annex. And then on June 20th at 5:30, beginning at 5:30, is closed session, followed by our regular meeting at 6:30, right back here in the James Blair Gymnasium. With that, thank you all for hanging with us all evening. This meeting is adjourned.